I don't know what's going on now. Waiting for peel is true. Okay, good. Now there's something on the screen. Well, I am currently here by myself, so for those of you that catch this stream after the fact, then I'm just going to go ahead and get started on some of my stuff. So the first stream in a couple of weeks, and so we have these X-Trans bots to look at and discuss. It wouldn't be XTB if there weren't clearance issues, but I feel like they're getting a little bit better with these clearance issues, so not too bad. We'll just do them in order of release on my channel. So the first one here is I can't remember their names. They always make you have to remember wholly new names. Flip Out. So this is number 14, X-Trans bots 14. They use Roman numerals too because they think they're fancy. And hello all hail Transformers. I couldn't find the mute fast enough, so there's a sneeze for you. So this is Flip Out. Yes. He's supposed to be the crazy one. It's hard to tell, but I mean he's got really good. I forgot to do fixed focus, so the whole time this thing's going to stare at my hands. Stupid. Let's just stop trying to focus constantly. All right. So he's got a nice. It's a real metallic finish, and it doesn't really come across on the camera. You can see how shiny it is. But I mean, it's almost like a chrome red. And then I can't tell if it's painted. I guess it's painted. It's hard to tell. But it's a speckle gray. Gun comes out of his hand like you would expect. It folds up for no discernible reason because you actually have to use it open to like plug it into the car for sticking a gun on him in car mode. But we'll just close up his fists, straighten out his arms a bit. All right. So the arms have to be rotated inward. And then the hands actually get rotated kind of like you just rotated the forearm and nothing else. Kind of like that. There's kind of a complicated joint here, and I mean the instructions tell you all kinds of illogical things to do with that. But really the only thing you ever have to do is move it up 45 degrees. That's the last time we're going to touch that joint. This tabs in here kind of. I mean there's indentations there and there's little hooks here, but I mean they're not very springy. Fortunately the thing just holds just fine. If it's not holding, chances are you haven't pushed the hood all the way down, because if this is loose then it's a little harder for it to get to hold. But we do flip that down, and we can flip this down like that. There's little tabs right under that red triangle there. There's like a tab that sticks into you can see the cylinder on the shoulder that's pegged into. And so getting those in can be a little tricky, but mostly it just involves kind of manipulating the door to get it to line up. But now let's take a look. There's the hole, and there's the little peg. It's a shallow peg, so I don't anticipate that it would ever break, and there's a little slant to the hole insert there that allows it to go in pretty smoothly, but sometimes you can maybe lose confidence. Like, is this going to go in? But we'll just open the doors. Pretty clever what they do to get the doors out of the way. I just got the one that turns into the red Porsche arm, whatever his name is. And he has kind of a similar hiding the doors of the car. You can lower the head down and turn around. And then These, you don't have to manipulate these joints very much either. You keep them at 45 degrees, and then you put these up at 45 degrees. And that's all you got to do with the shoulders. You do it at the right time, then you don't have to worry about it. I can flip this up flat. Doesn't come off great in the video, but from the side here, we're just folding these arms over. And then we can rotate them. You can open the hands if you want to. I found that the whole thing fits together just fine without having to change the hands at all. So they're just closed and they're there. There's a little bit of an angle disparity here. It's always easier to manipulate this one joint if you... I feel like it's... No, that's straight and that's 45. It's just a little off. Anyway. We unpeg this and lift it up. The wheel wells pop out. And the hood overextends a little bit. Then we can take this and place it on the front. And we're just, mostly you just want to get the arms to go behind the hood here. I don't know why this is being so stupid. Let's just start over. Okay. All right, then this comes up. Okay, good. Oh, for God's sakes. For some reason, this is the easiest thing in the world. I've done it 1,000 times at this point. But for some reason, this time it's... There we go. That's better. Jeez. All right. Kind of lift up on these... You have to kind of fight these wheel wells back because they like to just disappear underneath. But you peg there. And the same thing happens over here. Risky, the wheel well. And then this pegs down. These two pegs go into these two holes, and now the front is stitched together, not likely to fall apart again. I like to, when these wheel wells are fully out, you can kind of put your thumb on the bottom edge of it to kind of stabilize it, because you need to fight this tab past, and then just make sure everything's lined up. Silly me. I forgot to flip out the mirrors. And unlike MMC Trailbreaker, if you forget to flip out the mirrors, it doesn't destroy the mirrors. Sad story. All right. And we flip out this mirror. Come on. It's possible. I've seen it done. And then we lift up on the wheel well and get this behind it. All right, we get the front half of the car done. How's the comments going? Let's see. Oh, it's... Yeah, these Stunticons, I've got the third one upstairs, but I've just kind of resolved not to discuss anything too much until after I've shot it for stop motion, so... Otherwise, I'll just leave myself with nothing to discuss. I'll have like one really good live stream, and then the next week's live stream, I may as well just not even show up. All right. Here's where, in this one and the one I just got, the one that's like the red Porsche, clearance is always an issue, getting the legs put away. But it's not too bad if you just make an allowance for the clearance issues. So we just need to get that out of there. Get the back of the car flipped out. So it ends up on top. It's the whole piece there flips. And then we rotate this around. And then we flip out these side panels. And we lower this down. Now I like to leave this one out, or just not, you know, don't focus too much on it, because it's really the last thing I do for some, to be obvious reasons. There's kind of a hard pop joint here. It doesn't really do anything other than kind of fold from one position to another. And then there's a few clicks of the knee joint that are going to happen in the course of closing this up. So what we want is for it to be almost sealed down. And then we'll do the same on the other side here. So we're going to fish out the tail of the car, rotate this around, flip this thing up, and then flip out those, and just worry about that one. The other one can come into play later. And then we're flipping this around. If it'll let me. It'll probably let me. So you got to leave kind of a gap You know, you got to win this gap in between because the tail of the car has to go into it. But as long as they're closed almost all the way down, so almost flat here, then you can already get the tail into place, and so you can put them together and you can do what you need to do. Now here's where it gets tricky, because there are a whole bunch of things here. You can see like that black raised section there, and of course the white pin holder. These feet will just run right into that. But unfortunately, you have to kind of get the feet into the lower part of the cavity. You can't put them in the top part of the cavity and lower them down because of these humps. But when you start putting them in the lower part of the cavity, we can go ahead and collapse it all the way now. So it's all the way down. They'll bend down and they'll hit those things. So what you got to do, unfortunately, is there's a nice gap here between the door and the chest piece, and you can see the foot there. You just want to push, and you want to make sure you push on the inside of the foot too. So you see how I push the top of the foot up, but the inside of the foot's still in the way. So you got to push the inside of the foot up, and once you fight it off the bottom a couple of times, it'll stop binding, and you can go about your day. But I never found a way to shove the stupid feet in there without fighting it like that. Now the reason we keep these open on the side is because it makes it just easier to lower the center pin of these doors or the back of the car into the pin holder, and then we squash it down a little bit and engage these tabs, and it makes it easier, because otherwise you have to kind of fight these off. But anyway, that's the car. It's got rubber tires. It's got that nice shiny silver sparkle finish, the nice chrome red accents on the bottom, and red windows. So it's pretty sweet car. There's not as much to talk about going back to robot mode, and since I want to display them, I don't know, maybe I'll just keep them in car mode until April. I don't know. We'll move on to something interesting before we start repeating ourselves. So there's this guy, whatever his name is. Let's look it up because it's unmemorable. His name is Overheat. So not drag strip. Alright, so let's get the gun out of his hand. And yeah, that's a pain in the ass to get in his hand when you're trying not to move him at all. Wow, that's just in there. It's never going to come out again. Fascinating. I don't suppose I ever put this in before, so now getting it out has turned out to be just amazing. Amazing. It's like completely untabbed, but it ain't going to go anywhere. It's hopelessly stuck. There you go. That was worth it. I'm totally going to put that gun back in his hand ever again. Okay. Easier to get in than to get out, as it turns out. So he's pretty cool. His foot articulation is a little bit weird because he doesn't really have feet. You can kind of tweak the heel thing, and the toe does stuff. See, and you can make a solid seal with the ground, but he's not really standing on a foot. He's just balancing on his stems there. Anyway, the instructions say to do the front, like when you're going from vehicle mode, you do the front first and then the back, but you probably noticed I did the back first and then the front. Mostly because I like to just get the legs out, but it kind of makes it easier in a couple of ways. So going backwards, we will start with the front. So we'll just get the arms up out of the way. We just need to get this back sorted out. We can go ahead and rotate this around. They do have to be the other way ultimately. Alright, this is a little trickier to get out than to get in, but if you just kind of loosen it to this point, and of course his legs are in the way, that's handy. Anyway, if we loosen it at that point, we can kind of tilt this back, and if we can just get those free, yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass. There we go. Then we can get this extended properly, but it's just a series of linkages. So I'm guessing this guy came over from Fans Toys, and they've been, teaching him to stop doing that, but he couldn't help himself this one time. Tilt this out, you can get it in that way. And you have to kind of overextend it this direction. And then we got to fight these tabs in. It's easier to do one at a time, but you get this in and then you get this pushed over. I mean, the key thing is you're trying to get this further down. So you might feel like it's getting stuck, and you just need to get the centerpiece to come this way more. And then it comes together pretty easily. All right. The arms are pretty clever, and I kind of failed to really show what they do in the video. I mean, they do it, obviously, but I should have tried to get a top-down view, so I'll show you that now. So you got this stem and this stem. They're fully extended now for like arm mode, so wide shoulders. And so what happens, I'll just get the arms up. They rotate in opposite directions. And they end up switching the shoulders to the other side. So I'll just lower the shoulders down. See how they nest there. It's bright. I'm sorry, the yellow's a bit too much. But two die cast parts and one kind of fits around the other one. So it's a pretty clever way of doing that. All right, and then we put this back into position. And we're going to take this, just kind of articulate it there as needed. Just get it over his head. And then we can tab it in here. And we can take care of this engine and stuff. So we'll flip these out of the way and extend them. And the engine can be a little bit of a hassle to get out. Just have to get that popped. Get this out of the way. And this extends downward. It's really unfortunate because it seems like you got to put the engine in for arm mode. The instructions don't include arm mode. But the engine definitely goes in for arm mode. And then, but that tab will, you can't have the arms in when the tab is. So the arms do something else for arm mode. They wrap around the top of the arm or whatever. And another note here, while we have one of our last chances to see it, this actually comes apart. So once the engine's not part of the legs, then there's a button here and it separates it. So you have arm mode where it's just an ornament really for arm mode. Both arms have that center disconnect. Anyway, so we get this down here. Kind of helps to angle this like this to kind of get it past these 2 points. But we can lower it down. And then the legs have pins that capture that hole in the thing. So everything lines up appropriately. We can just go ahead and put the legs together. We'll not need them apart again. And then you can raise this up and peg it. Maybe. And then raise up the steering wheel and then realign this, which constantly falls out of position. And then the legs, the arms are like a big controversy. I didn't have any trouble with mine, so I don't know if I was in discussion with one person that convinced me there must have been some kind of running change with these shoulders. But on mine, you have like the car mode is like this. And let me see if I can get a little dimmer with the lights here. It's so bright. Jesus. This yellow is just too much. You can bring down the exposure another notch. It's very washed out. I'm sorry. But I'm trying to get you to see this. So there's a scalloping. There's like a curve. There you can see it if I put a little shadow behind it. But there's a little curve in the top of the arm. This is the thing that breaks on people, this forearm. Ends up with too much pressure applied to it to do other things. So apparently that's a problem. But on mine, the wheel just slides right in there. And then if you want to do it like the instructions, they seem to think that you should have them all the way down like this. But I liked them at a jaunty angle, and it's nice that the wheel kind of fits into that scallop right there. If you overextend, then it doesn't really fit the scallop anymore. So that's the reason I did that. You have to kind of pop that loose. Works better if the fists are flipped up. And the trick here is you need to make sure this is still slid down. You just need to make sure that this actually goes over this flange instead of getting caught under it like that. I'm over exaggerating, but like under is bad. You want it over. And then you can walk the hand into its pin. A little pin right there. There's like a little square peg. There's the shadow on it. Maybe I need better lights, I don't know. And then this one flips around. Once again, we make sure that this is actually on top of that, and we can walk the hand peg in. And notice I'm just leaving these like kind of in their 45-degree position the entire time. Doesn't seem to be a problem for me. Some people have a problem with it apparently. Get that lined up. And this is just totally different than the directions, but this just goes down and it just kind of tabs in there. Easy, no problem. I feel sorry for people that had something that wasn't, but this one seems to work fine. So maybe someone who has the defective one can comment on what it was like for the running change to have occurred. Maybe I just have one light. All right, that's a little too dark. Let's just bring it back up. That was better. Okay. It's just so yellow, so very bright. Anyway, so now we're going to do the legs. We should catch up on... Yeah, someone said something about merde. I don't know. I probably shouldn't allow that comment. Sorry, I can't Google Translate right now. Wow, Juan is really angry about everything. Stop trolling, Juan. This, you know, it's funny. This has like a flip out piece. And I mean, I've seen people pose him with that out, which doesn't make sense. But I don't know what it's for. It's not like you can put something in there and then close this. So I don't know if it's part of the combiner, but I just left it in because it looks dumb out, especially from the back. It's like this complicated little thing. I don't know what it's for. But anyway, I forget what we're doing here. Okay, so we'll get the knee pads popped loose. They can be a little bit tight, so I just like to get something flat in there. And then we can get these legs separated one way or the other. There's like a pin here that catches it. But then you can come straight out to the side, like I did in the video. Just fight it off of there. And, okay. All right. Let me put these away. The knee pads kind of fold back in, so you kind of overextend them to get them out, and then all right, and then this little doohickey flips around and just hides in line with that. The wheels are kind of interesting. How do I do this? So there's two armatures here. There's this one, and then there's this one, and the wheel's attached to that one. So you can fold this at the midpoint. And now the wheel's at an angle. And then this can rise up vertical. I folded it over all the way. You don't fold it all the way over. You might be tempted to. If it's not working, you're doing that. And then this is permanent. This fold, 45-degree fold, is how it is for car mode. So then you just bring it down. So it sits like that. And then these will come undone all the time, so it's almost pointless to fix it. I'm done. But then this comes down here. There's a little bit of a fight to get. There's like a tab there. There's like you can see it. See that little tab right there? That's going to go in that hole there. And so it kind of collides with this. So you just have to pull it up and get it past that collision. And it's actually easier to kind of angle it in and then fix these tabs on the bottom a little bit. So those fit in. And then the whole thing ends up like that. And then this can go up here, and it goes onto a tab, a couple of tabs, but fits in there. Oops, I did it off camera, just like a reviewer. So it ends up like that. I'll do it better on the other side. You can almost put it up anyway, because it tabs here a little bit. Why is this so weird? What? Oh, I forgot to put this away. I forgot to put the entire wheel away. That'll do it. I'm off camera again. I'm so sorry. I was just putting the wheel away. But this will tab here, and then you can kind of do it here, but sometimes it's easier to do it like after you get everything else lined up. So you just kind of pop it out there. I swear to God, I'm going to do this right. So we get these tabs in here, and we get this pressed in there and tabbed, and then this rear end can go in and tab. And then that's pretty much it. The car is, yeah, there's not much else to do. You can put the driver in. So it comes with this little double amputee driver, and you can lift this up. I've thought that, you know, it might be nice if this tabbed better here, but it would prevent this from lifting up. So being able to put the driver in without having to transform the thing completely is kind of nice. But you do have to kind of adjust that tabbing. And now there he is. I could probably bring up the exposure a little now. All right. And then I guess you guys might be curious about this obscure Transformers company called Takara have made this Jeep Transformer. Now, I've told this is based off of a character called Dog, something like that. And so let's take a look. I think this is a new company, Takara, but they seem to do a pretty good job with making Transformers. And I think they're asking for trouble because they've put the official copyrighted logo on this thing. So they're going to get in trouble with whatever that company is that owns the rights. So we can fold down the little rear view mirrors. This thing can come off, and in fact it will frequently. I've been tempted to glue it on. I'll show you how it comes off. It comes off the peg there. Because, I mean, the thing is fully integrated into the transformation, but, you know, you glue it on, that's the end of it. You can't undo that. Pulling this apart can be a little challenging. I mean, they'll tell you, Takara, I'm going to be serious now. Takara will tell you, oh, just flip out the thing, you know. But that's not quite what you need to do. I mean, you do have to pop these seats loose. They sit on pegs. And there's not a really good way to get leverage on them, so I have to just kind of get under them with a spludger. And then you can separate these out, and the seats go with it. But you can see there's like a green tab and 2 white tabs there. And then the seat, we need to flip it over anyway. The seat has these 2 peg holes, and the back peg hole is for the green tab. So the seat kind of holds it together. But we are going to just get these out of the way now. And then we'll do this one. White coated wheels are old school. Yeah, I mean, I assume Takara slavishly followed exactly what it looked like in the cartoon. Right down to this old time like Willis Army Jeep having like modern seats in it. I haven't looked, but my assumption is the cartoon had ridiculous modern bucket seats in it. And so Takara made it have bucket seats. This thing kind of holds the whole thing together. You can see there's like a keystone peg there, but also there's like a peg that goes into the other side. So it goes in and then keystones against the other half of the rear door to hold everything together. But I find, unlike the instructions, that if you get a little spread on the rear legs, and this thing tabs into these 2 holes when you're in car mode, but it gives you more than enough clearance to lift the front end out, which is nice. So now we'll focus on the back of the car. We're going to put the seat heads away. I just can't resist talking about this thing, even though it kind of spoils the stop motion. But hey, in stop motion, it'll do it all by itself. I'll put my hands in the way a lot here. And then this is, you got to make sure that this is here. This thing has a mystery, so I'm going to raise this mystery for all 2 of you that are watching. Maybe people will watch later. I'll use this side to kind of illustrate the normal, what you would normally expect, and the other side is the side that's unusual. But anyway, you can lift this up, and you have to kind of fight it past the seat. And that folding part of the seat has like a sharp edge that gets caught there, so you have to kind of push it this way to kind of clear. But you want to clear this and make sure the back of the Jeep doesn't get in the way. But that lifts up, and you can see there's actually two linked armatures. You can't see because I'm covering it up. But there's like, it'll make more sense in a minute. We'll just lift this out. So that goes in there like that. And this is going to fall off, so I'm just going to leave it out of the way for a moment. But this lifts up, and then this gets out of the way and forms kind of the front of his toe. But here's where it gets weird. So this is the normal side. This is the side that's not all that weird. But when we originally lifted this up, both of these things went together. See, they both move together. So this hinge, this has got a pin running all the way through it. So you can rotate the one without the other. And so now we've lifted that hinge. Instead of being sideways, it's at the bottom. Now we're almost ready to put the leg away. I guess I got to put this stupid gun back on now. All right. So the gun passes through. Oh, and you turn the oil can and stow it there. It's interesting. I mean, the oil can is optional. You can take it off, but it does just it can just stay on the whole time. This folds here. I saw someone like they kind of did it out of order, and the instructions are actually pretty clear about it if you pay attention, because you could turn this around and then flip it over, and then it's hard to flip over. But I mean, this is kind of cool because you just zigzag this down like this, and then you just rotate this down, and you never get a collision that way, which is nice. Anyway, so then the leg flips down like this, and you have to kind of get that past the handle of the trash can, or the jerry can. It goes like this, and then this part lowers down. You can see it kind of gets caught on a peg there, or its slot. And then this has a little button in it that goes in that hole, and it kind of holds the whole foot together. So there's like a little tension there, and it holds the foot together. Now let's talk about the mystery side. So on this side, that whole mechanism was just a long pin through a perfectly like square cross-section bar with the other hinge on it. This one is similar, but notice there's a little slot here built into that. And it's something that could accept a flat tab. Something could tab into that from the side of the Jeep, and that's what it's for. Not a single one of his accessories, as far as I can tell, tab into that hole. So this hole, and there's nothing in the instructions or the back of the box that show it being used for anything. So if anyone has any idea why there's a rectangular peg slot on the side of this Jeep, I'm all ears. But it actually gets in the way of the transformation. So when you lift this up here, let's just move that out of the way. This peg, or it looks weird from this angle because the hole is actually on the other side. This is just the punch through for the molding process. But it was down like this. So it goes like that. But at this point, it's already in the way of this thing. Like this can't sit flat anymore like it did. So when you close this up going back to Jeep mode, you actually have to kind of raise it back up. So it collides. And they put it in there for some reason. It doesn't have to be there. It wouldn't collide if it wasn't. But they went out of their way to put a slot that appears on the side of the Jeep just above the wheel when it's in Jeep mode. Total mystery. All right. Once all this is out of the way, then this would collide pretty badly with everything otherwise. So you have to kind of open the foot completely up. But there it is. And it's not so this tab can go into it, because that tab doesn't even line up with it. It doesn't seem to serve any purpose, and it's just the weirdest thing. This wheel actually kind of transforms, which is cool, because that way the spare tire can fit inside the foot. Also super cool. And we just make sure that when we close this up, we don't want that that rolling cylinder to move. So I'm kind of making the joint go this way, but that slides. There's like a groove that slides in there, and then the front lines up. And we get this out of the way, we can pin that. It's like an ornament. It's supposed to look like a miniature version of his wheels, because in the cell animation he has wheels like that. So now we get to the shins. Just, you know, every part of this guy kind of transforms, which is cool. Here you can see this pops loose a lot, but you can actually leave the two halves of his little hologram gun stowed away in his shins like this, even when he's transformed to Jeep mode, so you can just leave him there. The wheels kind of transform, which is cool, so we fold this over, and then that way the wheel fits up nice and flat there, and then we pull this out and fold it over, and this thing gets in the way. Because it's live, it's going to get in the way. Then we do the same thing over here. So, see, there's like a little bit of space for the panel. It's frustrating though, because this panel, when you pop it out like this, it can be hard to pop back in properly because the wheel binds. The wheel binds right here. And so you have to make sure that it goes underneath. And good luck doing that with all the other shin parts in place later on. So I don't tend to mess with that gun. I just, when I'm not trying to show it anymore, I'll probably just take those gun parts out of there so they're less in the way. Then we flip this part down. And for some reason they have it set up so it binds here. So there's like a thing there, and it actually collides with the tire, which is annoying. But there's no good way. You have worse choices if you try to pop the tire out ahead of time or anything like that, because like I said, it binds back there. But then this flips down, and this flips over. There's actually a pretty solid little peg here that fits into that peg area, and it's critical that that holds, so I don't know, it could wear out eventually. But that's the leg. And we can lower the foot, and then the foot rotates 90 degrees, and then the leg rotates 90 degrees. So that's done. I'll just kind of quietly do this for a minute. Well, you're welcome. And then this flips up. It binds a little bit here. It gets caught, but I haven't found a good way to round it getting caught like that, so you just kind of live with it. But this tab fits in there, and this plugs in there, and it's nice and tight. Not too tight, it doesn't get stuck, but I feel like that could loosen over time, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're geniuses. They kind of are. So 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and now we're done with the legs. It's pretty amazing. You wouldn't think you could fit those wheels inside those shins, but you know, they're totally in there. Folded up, folding wheels. And it's kind of cool how each leg, because this is the gun and this is the spare tire, so they both do something a little bit different. And of course we have that mystery tab to wonder about. All right. It kind of helps to have these a little bit out of the way, but it's not totally essential. But these both rotate like this. Why is it colliding? Okay. And then you get them synchronized, and they tab. They have like a little tab and slot that hold them together in the center. So that's done. And then you can, now you've got this rectangular slot you can fold, because the front of the truck is two different, like a short segment between two pins. So there's this pin and then this pin. So it's like a little segment between them. You're just trying to fold that segment down. And then we can just lift the steering wheel a little bit. And this whole thing can fold up. It's like the dashboard of the Jeep and everything. We can just bring it all the way up like this. And we're just going to ignore it for now. We just got it out of the way. There's his face. These arms could be confusing for some people. The instructions tell you, hey, just take this and just lift it on out. No problem. No big deal. Just go ahead and do that. But I promise you, it won't do that. Yeah, I mean, hiding the wheels on this thing is so cool. It's a little bit like when they hid the ladder on Inferno. It's just like, what? How did they do that? You know, you could think that the arms lift straight out, but it'll become more apparent when I can show you the parts. But this front of the fender is the same as this sort of stick of... So it's cut out here, and it continues. And there's the other part of it. So lifting that out of that crease is a real pain in the ass. So what I've come up with is you lift the front of the Jeep out of the way, and then these arms, we want to rotate them, you know, out. But for the time being, we're using the extra space afforded by the trunk to push them this way. So we've lowered this bumper down a little bit. That's hyperextending it. It's you know, not the direction it's ultimately going to go, but it doesn't damage it. And sometimes the fender kind of follows it out of its parking place. But now it's super easy to get the fender out. And putting it back is a little bit of a fight, but you just have to make sure it's lined up and then crank it back in. But that fender's a pain in the ass otherwise. Same thing on this side. It just lifts straight out, super easy when you've got this fender pushed down a little bit. But you have to open the hood to leave room for the arms to push up further than they would normally. You can see they're shoved up a little higher than normal. And now we can put the arms in the direction we want to put them. So we're going to just rotate this whole bit. I'm just kind of keeping it together, but it'll kind of fall apart on you. But this is how it should look when you're putting it away. It's got to be this weird angle. And one way I've been remembering it is like it angles, you angle the shoulder, the upper arm out this way, and then this folds up, and you just want to see this being flat. Not like this, but like this. And then it goes in when it's in that position. That's the position. But for the meantime, now that it's up halfway, we can extend the arm, unfold it. We can also rotate the arm, because it's supposed to be this way ultimately for his double elbow. And, you know, you can take the hand out, but this has to continue along, and there's a little bit of a pop to it right at the end. So you just have to make sure it's not colliding with anything. It likes to collide with its own bumper, so you can get that out of the way. And then it pops in. And I like to ease it back a little bit against that pop, because I don't like it to be angled like this. I want it to be angled out a little bit. But then you can make sure that you've got the fender back, because you don't want to get caught up in the hood, so you got to get that back out. So we're just going to do the same on the other side. It's easier when it's folded completely over. We fold this down, we can rotate this out. Finish folding this so it looks like this from this direction. And it's getting in the way of itself. There we go. Ease it back. Make sure this is free, not caught up inside the hood, and then you can close the hood again, because the hood's never going to open again. And we got the arms out. Probably one of the trickiest parts of this. Then you have to put the wheel wells away. Now remember, going in the other direction, you've got to get these out of the way of the arms. So if your arms aren't getting put away, you might ask yourself, have I left those tabs down? Because you probably did. All right. Some of these are out of order from what Takara recommends, but they're better, because I'm better at them than doing this. Because I don't think the people that design their manuals care how it really works. I mean, certainly their engineers don't design their manuals. They might talk to the engineers, but the engineers are busy. So you flip the wheels up, and this square tab or hole, the other one's just saving plastic. It's not a real tab. Oh, it has a tab. Oh, that's the one that engages with this tab here. So, but the secondary tab hole, it's going to go on these pins right here. So we're going to fold this down at the second joint. Remember, I told you there was like a little bit of a segment there, so we're going to fold it at the second joint. And then this tabs onto that one. And the other one tabs onto the other one. And you can kind of give them a little squeeze to get them tabbed. I'll do that over here. They're tabbed nice and firm that way. And that holds the upper body together. And then you put the wheel down like this. It kind of has to hide on the other, like if the wheel was pinned too tightly, the wheel wouldn't kind of flex out of the way a little bit, but it has to kind of go down next to the wheel. And then you can take this seat bit and fold it over into the middle. And I swear to God, they show you fold it in the middle and then they show you fold the thing up. And like, how are you supposed to get these, how would you get these tabs to engage then? Or disengage later on if you have to go the other way. So the instructions are a little bit crazy about that. Then we take this whole two separate parts on the same pin and we flip it over. And now there's little grabbers that accommodate the windshield perfectly. They don't really grab it, but you know, they're cut out for the windshield, which is nice. And then we can extend the head. He's got a little bit of a neck, so you can pull it out this far if you want to be crazy, but nobody's neck hides behind their chin that far, so I like to kind of go part way. Since I'm zoomed in on the head, there's a whole, like you can change his face, of course, but there's also like the underwater scuba visor from one of the episodes, I guess. But that can flip up and cover his face. So that's built in. And the face comes off real easy with the top disengaged like this. But like I said, I just like to extend the neck a little bit. And then, you know, this ends up like this. So it was like that without the neck extended. Now we're just doing it like that. So then we're going to keep the windshield under control here, and we're just going to flip this up. And it lands on the hood, and it can touch the hood pretty well. People are bitching about that gap, but what are you going to do? And then this whole big howitzer thing here, you can flip this out this way, flip this around backwards. Then you can flip this down like this. This tab's going to go in that notch there. And so we've got one final little joint to flip around. So it fits like that. You'd think it would be ambidextrous and go on the other side, but this other side doesn't do anything. It doesn't serve a purpose. And then we can flip this little cannon up. Oh, we got to get this out of the way. Flip this over. You have to move this first or last, depending what direction you're going. But you have to get this out of the way. And then you can flip over, open this. It's like a fake spring-loaded, you know, missile tab. So it's a faux missile tab. And then we can grab, I like to grab him by his knuckles, but you can get it started. Pull it out. Not too bad. His arms are a little bit short, but I mean, come on, Hound. Maybe that's an homage to the original toy, because the original toy, the arms were preposterously short. He was like T-Rex. Pretty cool. They allowed for kind of a butterfly joint here. It's not a transformation joint. It serves no other purpose. They just, for some reason, they included some crazy butterfly, but it really makes his arm, from the top, I mean, it really makes his arm kind of stick out pretty far, but it's a butterfly joint. And that's Hound. Pretty cool. They put a lot of thought into him. He's out of focus. I'm sorry. What are we saying here, people? Yeah, I mean, Sunday I'm going to have the stop motion transformation, which maybe doesn't include quite the explanation, but it works in any language at least. And so the stop motion will be Sunday of him. And then next Sunday, I suppose, will be one of the other X-Transbot cars. There's a little shipping error with one of my suppliers, so the fourth X-Transbot car is coming someday. And then the Motor Master is coming someday. It's on its way to them, so then it'll be on its way to me. And then there's the trailer, which apparently doesn't come out till like April, so they won't be combined for a while. Would you guys stop talking, you filthy talk? I have mixed feelings about this. I like and I don't. Well, I have one feeling about this, which is it's super awesome if you like that Takara magic. He basically doesn't have a backpack like some of their other stuff does. I mean, a little bit of one because they kind of hide a few things back there. But I mean, he's nice and clean. I'll go over his accessories when I focus on him in a couple of weeks. But if you tilt this all the way up, so cool. There's like a hook that you can flex out, and that's where his little jailer key. He has a key that comes with him. It's like the key he used when he had Ravage locked up in a cage. So it's cool that they just kind of integrated the jailer hook on his belt, and you don't have to have it out if you don't want it. Pretty neat little detail. They think of a lot of neat little details. I'm going to put him back there, and then I'm going to fix the focus by hand. Focus. No. That's as far. I guess I'm just too close to the thing. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm tired of it. It's roughly in focus. But he's got a nice, I mean, he's got a real mess going on in his armpit where all the transformation occurs. But his lines are pretty nice. He looks pretty good from the front. When you're looking down at him, I can't get the camera that high right now. But he's pretty clean. I really liked Hound when I was a kid. I still like the Make Toys. I was joking about it with the missus, but I was like, well, now the Make Toys Hound is garbage. But it's charming. The Make Toys Hound is a lot more like the original toy, which is part of the reason I like it. I kind of like the that toy approach that Takara started with before they went all crazy, getting the cartoon look perfect. But this is one of the best efforts I've seen from them. I mean, even so more than like MP44 I really like, but he's got that big backpack, and this one doesn't have a backpack. I mean, God knows MP45 has a backpack, am I right? It's like not the best. But Hound is super cool. I think they did a great job on him. Be great to see them get around to doing some of the other classics, although Ocular Max has kind of filled them nicely for us. But can you imagine what modern day Takara would do for like a Jazz? They got to do Jazz, right? And also a Mirage Trailbreaker. It'd be nice to see them finish out the original G1 line. I mean, so far it looks like we're getting a couple of G1s, 2 or 3 a year. I got to transform these back into vehicle robot mode because I just want them in robot mode for the time being. I like to go both ways. Fans Toys Willis. What's Fans Toys? Oh, Fans Toys Willis. Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's Fans Toys, so I tend to avoid those. I don't like how they do transformations. They've got a really like ad hoc approach. Like they're like, oh, this tail fin has to be somewhere else. We'll put it on we'll just use a chain. We'll just have a chain. It'll unplug from here, and it's still connected because the chain. And then we'll just plug it in up here. I mean, it's some really sloppy thinking on their part. Not coming up with better ways for that to. I don't know. I don't like Fans Toys. Sometimes they have some decent mechanisms, and they certainly have really nice paint. They look gorgeous in robot mode, and they look gorgeous in vehicle mode, and they're miserable to deal with halfway through. Fans Toys like Rouge or Rogue or whatever you call her. Rouge. I had to transform her just laying down on the platform because she couldn't. None of those armatures can support themselves. It's very frustrating to deal with. And not just for stop motion, but when I'm transforming a toy, sitting on my couch, farting around with a toy, I like to get to a point like this and have it be just holding that position while I work on I like to have it transform very meticulously, which is a little like stop motion, but I mean, you don't have to have a stop motion set up to appreciate the fact that the thing can hold its position the whole time you're manipulating it. And Rouge is like a pile. So for that reason, I don't like Fans Toys that much because they always have something that's irritating like that. If you don't get this to peg here, then you're not going to get it to peg there. So the key here is to get this to tab in. And what have I forgotten? Have I forgotten something? It doesn't seem to want to go. Why is it binding? I don't know. I just didn't get it far enough. So there. And then that'll tab, and then you can get the kneecap tab. And then you got a foot. The same thing is true on the other side. We flip out the knee pad and we make sure that this goes here. It's these stupid things that are getting in the way. And then there, and then knee pad. I kind of forgot to do the wheels while they were out. That was foolish. Let's see how far we can get away with it. Obviously, it's going to be a real problem when I get to do the second one. Although I can just move this one out of the way. Yeah, so we'll just move them out of the way and then flip these down. And then we can articulate these like this. Flip out the little wheels. There we go. And then we can flip these apart because they're just going to do that anyway. At the slightest provocation. This actually kind of tab, these flatten down and tab. You got to separate these to unpeg this. And then if you can bend it in the middle just a little bit, it'll clear better. And you can fold the sides down and shove it into the... Well, I forgot to move the arms out of the way, so... That's what I'm talking about. This stem here doesn't seem to really serve a purpose other than... I guess it's the back of the cockpit. Is it ornamentation? Yeah. But you can't just put it away. You've got to get the arms out of the way first, so go figure. So we'll do the arms. So I just pull this out a little tiny bit, and I lift it up, and they slide right in there. I mean, real easy. So I don't know what people run into with maybe the other, before they did some sort of running change to fix it, but I feel sorry for those people if they're making them break their arms. But I mean, it really just slides right in there for me. You can go past it, like they say in the instructions, but I think it looks stupid, so I leave it at an angle. I'm just going to get these out of the way, so I have to stop worrying about them. I can rotate this around if I want to. You can't stop me. All right, and then the arms, get these slid down a little bit. We just need to, sometimes I find it helps if I just kind of push them a little bit. I mean, maybe this thing can kind of auto-morph it, but that seems to be asking for trouble. So I just like to give them a little push from this side. Just pushing on the edge of the arm there a little bit. Remember, these have to be hooked over. Hooked over, not caught under. Hooked over when you go back to vehicle mode. So we look at it under here. We can flip this out. With these extended, these move back and forth, right? With them extended, the arm can tab in. You can rotate the fist. So we'll just do the same with the other side, the other arm. And the fist. We'll just leave those arms there for a second. Now we can finally finish putting the engine away, because the arms are out of the way. Close that up. And now we can lift this off of the head and lift the arms up out of the way, articulate this bit, and then we can double flip the arms. So this one flips forward, this one flips backwards, and they end up wider and side swapped, left to right. Pretty clever. And then we can put this up and away, and then we gotta screw around with this nose cone fairing, whatever. So we're gonna flip both those down, get that out of the way. These can now flip around and up and get caught right there and there. And then you have to make sure that you want this to be a bend, the second joint, so it turns into a bit of an S. And it just collapses up like that. And it actually does tab there. Right there. Tabs almost. It almost tabs. They almost designed it to tab. And then I like to lower this back down a little bit. But that's pretty much it. That's our boy, drag strip, or whatever his name is, Overheat. I'm gonna put this guy back in car mode, and we'll be done with our live stream. It'll finally be over. Wonder how they will put those chains on Fort Max. Oh yeah, I know what you mean, Shark. Like Fort Max seems like it would be like you've got all this real estate to work with, so you think it would be like a really straightforward operation. But you know, like if we know Fans Toys, they're gonna find some way to make Fort Max turn into like just what looks like a junk drawer full of spoons. Just a big floppy. It just, you know, you just pick it up by the torso and it's just flopping and dangling and the chains are clinking. If anyone can figure out how to turn something as simple as Fort Max into an annoying nightmare, it's going to be Fans Toys. This does not like to come along sometimes, but you can pop it. But with those loose, then getting the roof tab to come undone is super easy, barely an inconvenience. And then we can just flip this down. The feet come out easy. They don't go away easy, but they come out easy. All right, and then we're going to flip these up. Pull this up like a click. And then separate the back. Move these to the center, and then we can unfold the legs. And there's like this armature that has to kind of pop up in a position, and then you have a proper clicking knee at that point. All right. And then we can release this side, flip this up, have this spin around and around because it's a very loose joint. Flip this up, rotate it around, kind of walk this past here so it sits in there, flip up the back of the wing, whatever you call it, and then get these out of the way, and then you can close this. Flip out the foot. It's 1 foot. And then without comment, I'm going to do this one. Come on, man. Jeez, dude. Just thank you. There's a little bit of rubbing that happened right there. So, watch out, paint chipping. There's the legs. You can really get your finger inside the door here to kind of get a good grip on it, because you're trying to, remember, you're trying to lift up on this wheel well, and you're trying to get this tab out and flip the door down. Same story on the other side here. Door down. And then you have to kind of get this tab loose behind the wheel. And maybe it helps to lift up on this front. Nothing wants to come. There we go. Lift that up. And once that's out of the way, then you can kind of pop this tab out. Pop it out on the other side, maybe. And then the whole front of the car can lift out. And then you can fold this up, fold these up. If you don't fold this up, you're going to run into a collision later. So, like right here. That kind of snaps in place. Has to kind of go past the back of the roof. And then, again, the arms, the instructions make it seem really complicated. But we're just going to rotate on that ball joint, because there's like a little, we can extend the arms, no problem. And then we're just going to lower them down like this so you can see. And you just lower this, haven't even touched that weird joint at all. And we're not going to touch it till we have good leverage on it. So we're going to lift the head out and rotate it around. I'm going to close up the window and the rear view mirror. Remember there's a little tab there that goes into a little hole there. So we're just making sure that it actually goes in there. Same thing on the other side. There we go. And then the shoulders pop down one little notch. It's easier when it's sideways, so you don't pull the ball joint off. But it's that easy. You don't have to. You have to do all the crazy shit they say in the instructions, because that stuff is wrong. This lifts up. That tab's in place, and then reorient the arm joints to be like human arm joints. And then we'll leave these on the screen so that maybe YouTube will decide that's a good thumbnail for this video. Whew. No, I have no, this is Wild Rider. I have Dead End. Breakdown I was supposed to have, but there was some sort of confusion. It didn't get shipped. So I'm working that out. But I got plenty of time because I got to do Hound. I got to do Dead End. I got to do... I've even got New Age Toys little Seeker, Samael, the Skywarp from New Age to do. So as long as I get that other car in like 3 weeks, there's not a problem. Also... I'll probably get the Motormaster sometime. I'd like to do the cars before I get to the Motormaster, but whatever. And there's the Leo Convoys coming out someday, and of course I can do some Studio Series figures if I run out of things. It wouldn't be new to me. I ran out of things plenty of times. Anyway, that is the end of the thing. I've got like 8 people watching currently, so if any of you 8 people want to make your final comment or ask me a question, I am here to listen to your question. Otherwise, I'll be signing off in a few minutes. So, thanks for coming to my live stream. It's either explain all this stuff to you or try to explain it to my wife, and she just gets tired of it. So, thanks for listening to my explanation of these toys. Hey, I know this guy, Rocket77 Raccoon. Thanks for coming to my live stream, buddy. The most anticipated figures are the Devil Savior Constructicons. I know. I've been looking at them. I've seen a couple of demonstrations of how they transform, like on, forget the name of that channel. Something about Rising Sun or something of the Sun. Empire of the Sun, maybe? Empire of the Sun? Is that might be it. And I don't know, they look a little fiddly. I'm kind of holding out to see if they're super worth it or not. So maybe I'll do them if I decide that they're worthy. Yeah, I don't even know how to approach manufacturers for creating instructions. I mean, I'll post my videos. I've posted my videos on like Ocular Max's Facebook page and gotten, minimal response back from them. So they're not impressed, I guess. I wouldn't even know how to approach Takara. They don't care. And the other problem is if I approached any particular vendor and they decided that they wanted me to do it, then maybe they would insist on some sort of exclusivity. And then I can't do videos of other really cool things made by other cool companies. So, I mean, even if I got a contract with Takara, which I suppose would be pretty sweet, maybe that would actually pay the bills. So I might have to consider it in that case, but it would be a shame not to be able to do videos of other companies. Will I ever do a double upload? I don't know. I've done a double upload. I feel like I've done 2 in a week before. I did the like the Masterpiece, the Bad Cube, Sideswipe, and Red Alert. I did those. I shot them simultaneously and released them a couple of days apart. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the stop motion that I do is better than the instructions, and has a better order a lot of times than the instructions. Um, like I said, I think the people that design the toys don't necessarily um, do the instructions. Like someone else gets briefed on it, and then they do the instructions, and you know they can be done that way, but you can run into clearance issues if you're not careful. Well, that's promising. Pake works for, yeah, but I don't know. They might just kind of advertise themselves through him in that sense. You know, like they might give him things because he does good reviews and he can get the information out quickly. I don't know that they're exclusive to him, but once you start designing someone's instructions, essentially they're probably gonna want you to just only do theirs if they were so possessed. Well, I suppose that's it. I appreciate everyone stopping by. And this Sunday we'll be doing Hound. And next Wednesday we'll do a discussion of Hound, although I kind of covered all the details already. So what am I going to do for a live stream next week? I don't know. Whatever. Maybe I just won't do a live stream next week. I can do whatever I want to. I'll discuss Hound next week. Everyone enjoy the beginning of your new year. Hopefully we'll be able to see 2020 this year. Or make stupid dad jokes, I guess. Anyway, fare thee well.